Welcome back. Now we answer your questions. If you have a question, visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. Dr. Shabir, the question is, can Muslim women pray in public?
The simple answer to that is yes,
Okay.
but now we have to deal with it to elaborate a little bit more. Why does it even become a question, right? So let's start with some basics. The prayers for we should also unpack what is meant by prayers, because there is the formal ritual prayer, which is known as salat to Muslims, which involve bowing and prostrating, and then there is dua, supplicating God. Usually, Muslims raise their hands in pleading with God for this or that. That's called dua, and that, of course, does not require time and place. That could be done anywhere, right, and at any time, and without formality. So definitely in public or private, Muslims can do that, both men and women. And of course, one doesn't even have to raise one's hand. So nobody but you might know that you're offering silently an internal prayer between you and God, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you move your lips, that's even better. It's more pronounced. Raise your hands, that's another stage. You're solidifying that, right? You're making it more formal and firm, rather than just it being an idea in your mind. So there are different things that are called prayers. But I think
this question is referring to the ritual prayer.
That's right. That involves the bowing and prostrating. So that prayer occurs at 5 times per day as an obligation, and it involves a number of bowing and prostrations. And then each prayer has to be done within a certain time frame. So this is where the question of praying in public for both men and women occur, because if you had to, if you were only praying at night, a Christian may kneel by his or her bedside just before going to sleep. So that's done at home. It's not in public. But the 5 times daily prayers would occur throughout the day. One might be busy with merchandising or busy at work. So the time for the prayer falls. What are you going to do? Now, there is a little bit of a leeway, a gap of time for each prayer. But even then, one could be at a mall, and then you either pray right there in the mall, or you miss the timing. And for Muslims, the timing is important, because the Quran says, "Inna salata kanat alal mu'minina kitaban mawquta." The prayers are an obligation for Muslims to be done in a timely manner. So some Muslims may say, "Okay, at the end of the day, I'll just do them all. I missed them all, but I'm just completing the obligation." But that is better than nothing. But the main obligation is to do it within its prescribed time. Now, 2 of the prayers of the afternoon can be combined, so the 2 are prayed at once to make it even easier due to circumstances. And the 2 late night prayers, one after sunset and one late at night, the 2 can be combined as well due to circumstances, especially traveling or due to illness or major inconvenience. One can do that so that it becomes easy, rather than stopping to pray at 5 different times, stopping to pray at 3 different times. Or 1 prayer by itself, 2 combined, and then another 2 combined. But having said that, you still need to pray, and sometimes you might be in the public and you have to pray at that time. So naturally, men would pray wherever they are. And now the question is about women. Now, because it involves the bowing and prostrating, and Muslim women are, as part of Muslim culture, they are expected to be modest and, going down on all fours on the floor to prostrate. This may seem to be contrary to modesty, but we start with the basics, and then we see what are the exceptions, right? So a basic principle is that standing in the prayer is one of the arkan, one of the pillars of the prayer, and so too the bowing and the prostrating. So unless some exception is given for this, we have to say that it applies to both men and women, and we don't know of any exception. It's not mentioned that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Oh, if it so happens that a woman has to pray in public, well then she can omit these things. Or if the woman happens to be in public, then she cannot pray. She has to go and pray at home. We don't know of any
So it's
such
more
thing.
important that the Muslim woman pray rather than worry about the modesty aspect of it.
That's right. But we'll come to the modesty aspect now if I move to my next point. So is that the best thing for the woman to pray out in the public? Well, no. If all things are equal, then a hadith says that the prayer of a woman in her local mosque is better than the prayer in the larger mosque. So what this refers to is that you may have many local mosques in which people do their daily prayers. And then when it comes to the Friday gathering, which is expected to be a large gathering, then the local mosques won't necessarily hold the Friday prayer, but the Friday prayer will be held in the larger, the Al-Masjid al-Jami', the masjid that gathers more people. So according to this narrative, the prayer in the local mosque is better than the one that is done in the larger mosque. Rather than her traveling far and going to the larger mosque, it's better for her to pray in the local mosque. And then what she prays in her courtyard is better than what she prays in her local mosque. And what she prays in her inner chamber is better than what she prays in the courtyard. So this gives the idea that it's better for the woman to be secluded. Of course, the authenticity of this hadith and so on, that's another question to look into that. But taking it as it is, this explains why Muslims feel and why it becomes a question, like, can the Muslim woman pray in public? Because this seems to mean that the woman should pray in her inner chamber. But it doesn't mean she should pray in her inner chamber, because she can still go to the mosque. And women did go to the mosque. The mothers of the believers, Aisha and others, went to the mosque in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And only later on, measures were introduced to restrict women from coming to the mosque. But within the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, women went to the mosque. So they were not prohibited. They could still go to the mosque. It only means that it's better, all things being equal. Because if there's a lecture in the mosque, some other benefit to be gained, going to the mosque to be there with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and listening to his speeches and so on, that took priority, right? But still, if all things are equal, then one would prefer to be in more privacy. So how does this apply to our present question? If the woman happens to be praying out in public, then one might want to pick the more secluded corner rather than to be more in the open. And another consideration hovers over our heads now that, with tensions around the world, Muslims may be in danger just for appearing to be Muslim, or, somebody who's not even a Muslim but is thought to be a Muslim may be in danger. So much less, a Muslim woman who's wearing like a traditional Muslim head cover and so on, that could make a woman a target for possible abuse or harassment. So if one fears that that will be the case, then it may be better in one's judgment, and that's between you and God, to delay the prayer until you find yourself in a safe environment, and then you offer the prayer, rather than to risk some adverse incident, and that would, it's difficult to reverse the incident once it has happened. So it's better sometimes to, as I say, prevention is better than cure. But it should not be with the desire, I don't like to pray, so I use this as an excuse. It should be sincerely between you and God, that I don't feel safe here at this moment, so let me try to, do what I can to please God in a way that is safe, because that's what God would want of us as well.
Now, Dr. Shabir, you mentioned this hadith about, trying to pray in a secluded space, but if Muslim women are out and about in society, it's a very different circumstance than it was in the Prophet's time. So how does that hadith even apply in our circumstances?
Well, we can say, let everything be applied in a reasonable way, given the change of circumstance.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. We have some exciting news to share with you.
As you know, Let the Quran Speak has been on TV screens and social media for 22 years.
We've been reaching people all around the world, spreading positivity and good, and helping people experience the beauty of Islam and the accomplishments of Muslims.
We've been shooting in this very space for the past 2 decades.
And now, with the help of Allah, we're about to get the keys to Muslim Media Hub.
If you like what we're doing, you're gonna love Muslim Media Hub even more.
Because it's the next step up.
Think new TV shows, podcasts, social media content, and film.
It will have new talent, more youth, and a lot more space and resources to do what we love. Spread the message of Allah.
Our Muslim Media Hub costs $2.4 million.
And for that, we need to raise $300,000. Please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help establish Muslim Media Hub so we can do this.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be of benefit to the Muslim community long after we are gone.
Thank you, and may Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always.
Assalamu alaikum.